All right, everybody, greetings and welcome to week number 6. That is right, week number 6 of your 73, oh no, of your 9489 class, which is your cultural heritage class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Austin. And what we are going to be doing this week is we are going to have a quick state of the course update, and then we are going to I'm going to link something in the announcements, and I'm not going to go through, and that's best practices for music cataloging. And then also I am going to go down as far as a little blog entry that I like as far as tips for organizing sheet music. That's what I'm going to do with the optional content this week. And I'm going to try to keep this video, I know I say this all the time, but I'm going to try to keep this check-in video under 20 minutes unsped, which will be even faster if you speed it up. The reason being is that we do have a sync session next week. So let's go ahead and plus you all have videos to watch this week as part of your assigned duties. So let's go ahead and get into it with this state of the course update. First and foremost, like I said, you do have the sync session that is going to be March the 3rd, which is Tuesday of next week. So be on the lookout for that. Well, not be on the lookout for that, but be on the lookout for the link for that and be ready to join us on the evening of March the 3rd. We will start our sync session at 7 p.m. Central Time, adjust for your time zone, and we will be hosting Stuart Hines. Stuart is the founder and primary curator for GLAMO, which is the Gay and Lesbian Archives of Mid-America. And his, I believe that you all will enjoy his presentation as well. There's a lot of good history there that's documented, a lot of hidden history. And then also last year, he was talking about some of the new concerns that come with preservation of this type of material. I don't know if he will hit that again this time around or not. I give him freedom really to do what he thinks is best with these presentations. And so far that has worked out in everybody's favor. So I don't know exactly how he's going to come at it this week. I mean, next week, but this semester. But I do know that you are in for another treat. And so we will not have a check-in video next week because of that. And again, I am going to try to make this one a little bit more brief. Okay, now if you didn't watch last week's check-in video, I do hope that some of you will watch it if you've been watching the check-in videos, because I do think that the oral history kits that I talk about that libraries are doing, I think that's very important stuff. And so last week's check-in video is an opportunity to learn about that. But outside of that, there's not really a whole lot coming up. You've got your mini interview that's, again, due on March the 30th. So you still got a ways for that. But as I explained in last week's check-in video, you're going to have some assignments that are hitting kind of back to back to back, beginning at the end of March. So you want to keep an eye on that. But throughout most of March, you're just going to have your discussion board posts and your sync session, okay? And this will be your second of 3 sync sessions. Now, one of the reasons I've noted this before, I believe, but one of the reasons why I have 3 sync sessions is because some students don't want sync sessions at all, and some students wish they could have them every week. And so that's our happy medium there, is to have 3. 3 gives those who want them the chance to say, well, at least I got some and I enjoyed them. But 3 also allows those who don't want any sync sessions at all to be like, ooh, we didn't get overwhelmed with a bunch of sync sessions, okay? So again, that's just our little compromise there, okay? All right, but outside of that, yeah, I did have just this free webinar that I posted in. This is really more useful for my reference students than it is for you all. But, you know, I figured, hey, it's a free webinar that some of you all might be interested in. So go ahead and, yeah, take part in it if you are interested. With that said, the other thing that I need to say as far as state of the course update is, one thing that I do want to let you all know is that as far as grading, it may be a while before. This is the time of the semester where I start to fall behind, because this is where new stuff starts getting dumped on me. So we do have, I had papers in all 3 of my sections for my 3-hour courses. I had papers due last weekend, and so I am grading the reference papers that I had first and then getting to y'all. But I am going to be grading those papers before I get back and starting to grade the discussion board prompts, because I want to the reason why I do that, the reason why I'm prioritizing grading the papers over grading the discussion board posts, is because I want you all to get the feedback that you need prior to having to turn in the second paper. So if I notice things that are weaknesses in your first paper, I want to have that graded and back to you in time for you to incorporate that feedback into and avoid any mistakes and that sort of thing in your second paper. So I hope that makes sense. Also, in case you haven't noticed, the webcam is doing better now. I'm not all blurred in the back, and I'll tell you exactly what happened with that. It actually was not a problem with my computer's webcam. What it was when I downloaded ScreenPal for this laptop, it actually downloaded a with a default setting of blurring whatever was behind me, which again I don't like because I like to hold up things and things of that nature. And it didn't default into that setting when I downloaded ScreenPal for my work computer, so I don't know why it defaulted into that on my personal computer, but I finally found that setting and changed it, and now as you can see I'm not all blurry in the background. Okay, all right, so that is that. So yeah, just be ready for that sync session next week and do your readings and your um discussion board prompts as told. I will say that we have finally gotten into what I would say are the more fun parts of the course. Your first 5 weeks, as I noted before, those are more foundational knowledge. And then once you get past week 5, once you get into week 6 and beyond, now you are dealing with individual topics. And I like to start out with music because that's an enjoyable topic. And then we go into some of these other topics. And I think that the course gets more enjoyable when you're going beyond the foundational knowledge. And now you are actually tackling topics within cultural heritage. So that is what we are up to now. And yeah, so with that said, let's go ahead, and I think that's it really for the state of the course update. I don't think there's anything else going on that you all need to know. So you can take a break right here, and then after you take that break, come back and we will talk very quickly about just some tips for organizing sheet music. All right, and so yeah, we are back, and so I did, no, this is not scholarly, as you'll be able to tell. This is basically just a blog post that I'm going to be posting this into, but I think that this is helpful and useful and something that's very quick. So let me start out by saying that yes, our topic this week, and this is another week where I'm going to go by the topic of the week. So our topic this week is music as cultural heritage. I do want to give some background that yes, and when I first started teaching this class, I didn't have music as its own module. And the students, the first time that I taught this, they really demanded that. They really wanted it. They were like, yeah, we we realize that you talk about music as part of intangible heritage, but music is such a big thing that, yeah, we would like to have that just be its own module. And so here we are with music now getting its own module. I started doing that in, first taught this class, I believe, in 2020. So 2021 would have been when I first started doing the module for music in and of itself. Okay, and one thing that I do want to note is and this is basic and kind of common sense, and I think it's in the prompt as well, but music itself is intangible heritage. But when you talk about sheet music and the recording mediums and the instruments and things like that, all of that is tangible cultural heritage. So these things work in tandem and that sort of thing. Again, as I said before, one of the reasons why we distinguish intangible and intangible cultural heritage is because they have to be experienced differently. And when you're talking about intangible cultural heritage, you're not, you're not feeling it with your hands, you're not tasting it or smelling it or that sort of thing, or a lot of times you're not even seeing it. Now when you're at a festival, you'll see dance and that sort of thing, and the festival itself, you'll see sights and everything, but a lot of what you'll see at an intangible cultural heritage festival will be tangible cultural heritage that is included in that festival and that sort of thing. So I hope that doesn't get too confusing there. But yes, I will say that your sheet music is your that is a form of tangible cultural heritage. Your sheet music is, so that is an element of tangible cultural heritage within music. Okay, now what I'm going to do, so again, I found this blog, and this is 5 tips for organizing sheet music. And I'm just going to go through this very quickly. And again, I'm going to try to keep this under 20 minutes. So I'm going to go through this very quickly and just do some highlights of some of the things that are spoken about here. But I'll link this in the announcement so that if you actually want to follow up yourself, you are able to do that. And then I'm also going to, let me show you this really quickly. You do not have to read this, and you probably don't want to, but there are standards, best practices for music cataloging. And so if you're going to be a cataloger, you may want to be aware that this exists. I do not know if, just quite frankly, I don't know if this is actually included in the course materials of 7302 or 7312. But if it's not, then just know that yes, there are standards for cataloging music. And so if you want to become a cataloger, and specifically a music cataloger, and I know some music catalogers, if you want to go that route, then it may be a good idea for you to not memorize this verbatim right now, but at least know that it's out there, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and come back over here and come back into 5 tips for organizing sheet music. And this is fairly recent. That's one of the other reasons why I wanted this. This was July of 2024. So, first of all, no lies detected here. The struggle for organizing sheet music in your piano studio or whatever studio, if your music of choice, your instrument of choice isn't a piano, it can be something else, and there's still sheet music involved with various different instruments. The number of books required for our profession does not always match the size of our teaching space. If space isn't an issue, then there's the dilemma of how to store and what to do with digital downloads. Okay, now. I think that this is good information and good tips right here as far as she's giving some information on why even get organized. To begin, let's take a step back and consider why organizing is essential. Now, you all as librarians or librarians in training, I hope you already pretty much understand why organizing is essential. And if not, you will definitely get some instruction in that when you take 7302 or 7312. The time crunch, you don't want to have to spend a whole lot of time hunting that information down, respecting your investment. All of this stuff costs money, so you want to be able to know where it is and access it quickly so that you don't make redundant purchases and that sort of thing. And then, as we talk about a lot in this class, self-preservation. We talk about preservation, not necessarily self-preservation, but overwhelm spikes when there's chaos. Chaos usually begins when you purchase something that has not been assigned a designated spot. You neglect it for a bit and then get something new, and pretty soon there is a pile. And with that pile and with that clutter comes a cluttered life, okay? So again, she's offering 5 tips. I've scrolled down a little bit, and I'm going to go through these tips kind of quickly. So first, one tip is to edit your collection, and you can read this, of course, but basically she's saying weed. What she's talking about here, we call it weeding in our profession, and yes, you do need to weed your sheet music if you have a lot of sheet music, and that's something that I've seen a lot of libraries struggle with. They really, a lot of libraries don't want to weed anything, but really when it comes to sheet music, they get really sensitive about that. And so I would say whether it's your own personal collection or a library collection that you're curating or in charge of, that sort of thing, yes, weed when you can, when it's appropriate. I won't say when you can, but weed when it's appropriate. You don't want to just have a lot of sheet music that never gets used and nobody wants or anything like that. But you can donate sheet music. One of the things I want you all to be aware of is you can donate sheet music and song books and that sort of thing to public libraries, to academic libraries too. But when I was at a public library, one thing that I got a lot of requests for is people would come in and they're like, there would be people trying to learn different instruments, and they're like, hey, do you have sheet music, because it gets expensive buying these songbooks and everything. And so actually I actually spent a large percentage of my budget. The second year that I had budget allocations there, I spent a large percentage of my budget buying songbooks, buying Disney songbooks, buying songbooks to various soundtracks, buying R&B songbooks like popular R&B, popular jazz, popular country, whatever the case could be. A lot of cartoon theme songs and sitcom theme songs. You can get songbooks related to that. But I was buying that stuff because we were getting so many questions about it. And then I was always adding the catalog field. Once those things were cataloged, I was adding the catalog field for songbooks and sheet music, and the extra field, I can't remember what the extra note field is at this point because I don't catalog anymore, but I was adding that so that those things could be found, and that was something that was very heavily appreciated by our patrons. So yes, don't be afraid to weed. The second tip is designate storage spaces. Yes, that needs to be done. Shelves and cabinets, but also, as you can see here, she is actually keeping her things in like those archival boxes that are often used for archival materials, and I do recommend that you organize and play sheet music in these sorts of things whenever possible, unless you work somewhere where they have best practices and those best practices are better than that practice. But if you don't have best practices already established, I would say that using the same types of archival boxes that archivists tend to use, that's a good idea for storing your sheet music. Now, if you're a dedicated music librarian, I do also recommend, yes, offsite location. If you've got seasonal books, seasonal sheet music and that sort of thing, seasonal song books, moving that stuff in and out. Now, you may or may not need to do that. You will know your space needs and things like that. But I will again say that if you are a designated music librarian, you may want to put the time into actually getting that stuff to and from the actual music library or music collection as needed. If you know that there's a particular time when particular sheet music is going to be in demand, then go ahead and organize moving things back and forth, or plan to move things back and forth based on when you know it's going to be in the most demand, because you can still always get stuff, request stuff from your offsite storage locations, and librarians do that all the time. Figuring out your categories and how you are going to organize things, this is always kind of a thing that people have to deal with. It's something that can, it's something that can vary from practitioner to practitioner, but that's why, again, we should have these best practices and standards and that sort of thing. But if you aren't actually cataloging and you're organizing things in a different way, just be consistent. Are you organizing by genre? Or are you organizing by composer? That sort of thing. This harkens back to the LibGuide. For those of you who had me for 7314, this harkens back to the LibGuide assignment, okay? So yes, there are different ways to categorize things, and just find a categorizing scheme that works for you. But once you have worked something out, stay consistent with it. And so I would recommend, definitely, I think that if it were me, and I'm not saying that my way is the best. In fact, I don't have a music background. I'm musically inclined in no shape, form, or fashion whatsoever. So I could be giving you bad advice here, but me as a layperson, if I were suddenly in charge of a small sheet music collection, I would probably organize by genre first, and then I would group by genre, and then after I group by genre, I would probably sort in alphabetical order by composer name or performer name or that sort of thing, okay? So that's something to be aware of. And then finally, when you have digital files, make sure that you organize those in a proper and sensible way as well, so that you can recall things without too much trouble. So this recommends Dropbox. For those of you who are employed by universities, a lot of times universities will have things like OneDrive space available, or if you don't have OneDrive space available, a lot of people have Google accounts and you've got Google Drive and that sort of thing. But know what you're doing with your digital files, and then I would always say always have backups for your digital files as well. So you can store in a cloud, but then I also recommend that you keep a flash drive or something of that nature, so that there is some sort, or SD or whatever the case may be, so that you have some sort of backup, okay? And yeah, I am going to leave it at that. Again, I was trying to keep this under 20 minutes and I have, so if you do want to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this a little more, it will be linked. But having said that, that is enough of me, because you will be with me for an hour and a half next week. So I am Dr. Jace, and you, as a music cataloger, if that's what you end up being, or a music curator, if that's what you end up being, have to figure out, when it comes to sheet music, putting it in the proper place. Jay's place. I can go to sleep because I got my rhyme. I will see you all in the discussion boards as I can, but again, I'm going to get those papers graded for you first. But I'm just a message away if you need me. Love you guys. Can't wait to see your reviews of the documentaries this week. Oh, by the way, yes. Ooh, I should have said this earlier. If you do want to switch your documentary, if you want to switch to something that was unassigned, or you want to do something that hasn't been assigned, just run it by me. Just get in touch with me. But for any question that you have related to the class, just feel free to reach out to me. I'm not that mean of a guy. I'm willing to talk to you, okay? All right. I will talk to you all soon, and thank you.